Well, thank you so much for staying with us. You say we should bring it on? Well, we've brought it on. The skills gap. Why graduates struggle. Yeah. I won't forget that minister. Should I mention his name? No, it's not. It's pointless. It was an interview conducted in our Puja studio on Sunrise Daily. I think it was about 2-3 years. No, yeah, about 2-3 years ago, maybe more. So the stark reality is that despite investing in higher education, many Nigerian graduates are struggling to find meaningful employment. Instead, they're forced to take up low-paying menial jobs just to make ends meet. Now, there are those who would wonder, when they go abroad, what do they do? But anyway, let's go there. Now, this trend raises critical questions about the value of education, the state of the economy, and the future of the Nigerian youth. So today, let's take a look at the root of this issue, from the mismatch between university curricula and industry needs to the lack of job opportunities and entrepreneurial support. Joining us this morning is Dr. Adetola Salau, who is Special Advisor to the Honourable Minister of Education, STEM and Corporate Sector Engagement. She joins us here in the studio. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Let me ask you that minister's question. We asked the minister pointedly. Minister said, quote me, our graduates are not employable. But, you know, let me first of all bring Engineer Titus Olowokere also into the conversation. He's president of the U.S.-Nigeria Business Council in Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Dr. Salau, what do you feel about that statement that minister made at the time?
I'm smiling.
Yes, I see. You can see that.
I really want us to address the elephant in the room, which is something I'm also going to be speaking about today, which is a mismatch between what the skills that are needed in the marketplace are and the skills that are being taught. And why this is something that is so important to this current administration. I had to make sure that I came on here to talk about a lot of work that is being done to address this skills mismatch. There's a mismatch. If you watch, in fact, I don't even have to say if you watch. You don't have to watch. All you have to do is just constantly look at the news, listen to the conversations that we're having constantly. What are some of the key words that we've been using a lot in 2025 pointedly? AI, ChatGPT, digital literacy. What's another one that I'm coming to? Workforce readiness, being future ready. All of these things all converge at skills that our youth have to have, not just now, but to be able to be competitive in the future with a global workforce, not just against themselves alone now. Because everything, the jobs are now global. You can sit in your house and you're doing work with somebody in Malaysia, in Canada, in Australia. So there are certain skills that you need to have to do that. And there's that mismatch of what is needed in that workforce versus what they are learning and the skills that they already have. So there needs to be a bridge. And that is what I'm going to be talking about today. What is that bridge? And what are the efforts done to alleviate, to make sure that our youth are climbing or are crossing and are utilizing that bridge?
Well, you have stylishly evaded my question, but I forgive you. Engineer Olowokere, please, speak to that as well. She's talking about this mismatch, and I've always struggled to understand Nigeria's education policy and curriculum. How few, in fact, I think it was 2 years ago, I tried to look at our education policy, education trajectory, and I was looking at the future in it. I couldn't see it. Maybe I wasn't looking right. What are your thoughts?
Well, thanks for that question. I agree with what she mentioned, that there's actually a mismatch between the curriculum in our higher institutions and the needs of the industry. But then that is actually not it's not a generally acceptable statement, because even though students might have learned something completely different in college, a lot of graduates now retrain themselves. The AI, the ChatGPT, the work alignment actually are tools to make the students a lot more employable. I mean, I live in Atlanta, and then a lot of workers here ask me they want employees from Nigeria. They're looking for software engineers from Nigeria. We have a large technology hub in Lagos. I left Ife, and I know at the University of Ife, the last time I was there, they have a very well-equipped software laboratory there where they actually train students. So in the broad sense, yes, it's a lot of mismatch, but in the same breath, a lot of people train themselves. The former Minister of Trade, and Lama, studied medicine in college, is doing something completely different now. So what I'm saying in too many words is that that is not the sole factor responsible for graduates unemployment in Nigeria. The other factors we need to look at.
Right. It was part of the, what we were talking about earlier. We noticed that, I think we talked about the revenue. We were talking about FAC and sharing of revenue has gone to the states. And we also talked about the fact that, what is giving us an increase in, the amount of funds that can be shared is actually coming from the non-oil sector. You know that the informal sector plays a large role in, building the economy, rebuilding the GDP. And we're talking about skills gap. A lot of things that, we teach in schools. Now, if you're not a medical doctor, you go to train as a lawyer, an engineer, an economist. Those things are needed, yes. But how come, instead of just, I think Lagos State government and some other states now, they have some of their universities convert to those universities that is not just about being a doctor and a lawyer. You have vocational training as well. Can't we incorporate that into regular universities, some courses, such that when you do graduate, it's not just about, oh, this company is not employing me and all that.
And that was why I mentioned that word bridge. There was a reason, and he understood what I was doing. I was already segueing into what I was going to talk about, which is the work that we're already doing. I'm sure everybody knows because it's been all over the news. There was a major curriculum revamp done by the Federal Ministry of Education. And a huge part of that revamp was embedding digital literacy, also embedding vocational skills and entrepreneurial skills into the main curricula. It wasn't sideways. It was into the bed of the main curricula for basic and senior secondary levels for the students. It was done there. And we had things like journalism. We were talking about what you just mentioned, AI training, seeing how we're going to start onboarding robotics. All those things were put in there into the main curricula. It wasn't sidelined. It was right there in the middle of everything that is being done, because that is the current reality that we must address now. Now, the thing is, of course, we're going to be talking about how do we upskill our teachers to make sure that they're able to facilitate this to the students, which is another topic, of course, to itself. But the key thing is that it's being addressed.
That's a very important, my apologies, that's a very important element. Here is why. They are the ones that are going to be teaching AI.
That's why I said...
because back then, the teachers knew how to use slates. And what do you think? The teachers back then knew how to use slates. But today's teachers, I'm not sure they can use iPad. And guess what? A good number of the students are now required to everything is mostly CBT.
They're taking the test.
WAEC. Even WAEC, that I'm sure you wrote longhand, Engineer Olowokere.
So did I.
Now you have to do CBT, computer-based testing and all. But I'm not even sure whether the teachers themselves are schooled enough in that digital space.
And there's a lot of work
again, we shouldn't focus too heavily on the skills mismatch as a factor or as a dominant factor for the graduate unemployment in Nigeria. There are two factors I think we are overlooking. One of them is that disparity between the job creation in the economy and the graduate pipeline. We have over 200 higher institutions in Nigeria that churn out every year about 600,000 graduates. In sharp contrast, it's only about 50,000 jobs created in the economy, which includes in the government, in banking, in other sectors. So this huge disparity creates an issue, but the economy cannot absorb the graduates coming out of institutions.
But my apologies, engineer.
What do they do?
Just a second.
Menial work.
My apologies.
Yeah. To make ends meet.
My apologies, Engineer Lowokere. In the National Youth Service Corps program,
okay,
entrepreneurial skills is integral. I have seen the documents. I have seen the things that they have to do. It is part of the reason I understand that they have to go to the local government every week. Entrepreneurial skills is one of those things integral in the NYSC scheme. Is that to say that we are not executing it the way it ought to be executed?
Exactly. Exactly. See, we're not deficient of ideas in Nigeria. What we actually lack is implementation, an enabling environment to make those programs successful. Yes, you did mention the entrepreneurial program integrated in the NYSC, but then the graduate is done, is in the employment market. He has a beautiful business plan. He goes to the banks. He doesn't get the loan. Even when he does get a loan, the interest rate scares him off. The repayments program scares him off. He doesn't have the collateral to support those loans. There are so many entrepreneurs in Nigeria today that have beautiful projects, but even with the Bank of Industry, the regular banks, the Development Bank of Nigeria, they find it difficult to get loans. So it makes it difficult to actualize the entrepreneurial training they have gone through. So these are things, again, that limit graduates employment. And again, what do they do? They turn to the menial jobs to make ends meet. They have bills to pay, they have families to feed, and a gig economic job coming up, may pay about 50,000 naira a year or a month. They'll take it. They'll drive Uber. They do food delivery. They do Udemy training. They do Fiverr, so freelancers. Everything they can do to make ends meet. So the entrepreneurial program is not enough. We need the government to also enable them to get support.
Engineer Lowokere, I hear you 101, but I would like to bring another angle into this conversation, difficult as it may sound. And that is the end of entrepreneurial, the end of volunteerism. I know that in the system where you have operated, you know that volunteerism is an easy way to get experience, and through which you can tell anyone, look, I have this experience in this thing. But it will seem like that's not really our thing in this part of the world. I say that because with an entrepreneurial mindset, you really can start a business with zero naira. I have done it twice, and I know what I'm talking about. So once you have the skills and you know exactly what you want to achieve, it is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible to start with zero. And then as you grow skills, as you grow capacity, you can actually, expand. Just as you said, I mean, once people can see what you have done before, that it has viability, then anyone should be able to buy. What do you think, sir?
To say, I know the kind of businesses you started with zero capital, but I know that sounds rather utopia. You know, in reality, in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, there's hardly any business you can start with zero capital. And it also depends on the kind of business you are working on. In most cases, you still need some basic infrastructure. You still need some basic equipment to get started. Probably the only thing you can do would be software development, which just requires your skill. But when it comes to entrepreneur, buying and selling, having projects you want to put out there or deliver goods and services, you do need some capital. And if the capital is not there, it makes mockery of the training you've gone through.
I do understand. I understand 101% what you're saying, Engineer Lowokere, but it's not to talk about me, but what is possible. Well, I think Dr. Salah would like to add a word or two to that.
I want to add something to that. I actually understand about creating an enabling environment, and we are working on things around that. Right now, we are working on private-public partnerships where we're trying to work on internship opportunities, also volunteering opportunities for our youth from tertiary institutions. We're also working on grants for students who have proof of concept and traction already for businesses. You'll be hearing more about this. Grants that will be coming up for the students at the tertiary institutions. And I have to say, a lot of this really comes down to, when I said a mismatch, what I was referring to was the fact that we only have 30% of our tertiary students in STEM fields, compared to other nations like Malaysia, China, where it's 42%. And you can notice that those nations, they have more of a knowledge-based economy. You have people from around the world coming there to utilize the skills that they have. So we need to increase the number of our tertiary students and the graduates in those kind of fields so that we can have more people in the knowledge economy. Yes, they are training themselves, and we are working on supporting them with programs that will be centered around training them in TVET, in STEM. You're going to be hearing a lot more about these programs. We even had a launch and a whole rollout around programs around vocational training. That's TVET. You'll be hearing more and more and more about this. In regards to entrepreneurship training, when I worked in Lagos State, we did entrepreneurial programs for our youth from secondary schools, junior and senior secondary schools, where we train them on how to write business plans, how to put around revenue projection, what are the other things in regards to when you're looking at money? Anyway, things around income statements, there you go. How to do that. There's another one that's return on investment. All those important numbers for businesses, we taught them that, and how to, of course, pitch your business. And we taught them what he was saying, which is really, really key. How do you start a business with little or no funding? Because a lot of times, whether we like it or not, the real world will come into play and come at you. How do you work around that so that you get to the place where even if you have these obstacles, you're already putting something together, you're already running something, and then friends and family and other people come and also put into you, and then you get to that place where you're viable and people say, okay, I've seen something, that's why we call proof of concept, I can come and invest with you. A lot of these businesses that we see around us, people didn't just invest in them immediately. They also had to put in that work. They had to grind and get to that place where people said, okay, I can see something here. It's viable, it's working, the market likes it, and we're going to put into it. We also need to teach them resilience, because that's what it is. We have to teach resilience, and we have to teach creativity. We have to teach being creative and being able to...
Do you also teach thinking? I know she has questions for you.
Yes.
Do you also, because it's one of the things, and I don't know if Engineer Lowokere will agree with me on this, because mindset is crucial, Dr. Salau. Mindset is crucial. Is there a program around that? And I'm asking that because this whole idea of skills gap, it's one thing to have the certificate. It's one thing to have proof that you went to school. It's even another thing entirely that, okay, you have experience, you have 10 years experience on this job, and you're not able to deliver. It has happened before, it is still happening, so is there a way...
That's where these public-private partnerships, where we're working with industry, to have experts, to have people who come in to work with these students as mentors, and also provide them opportunities where they have internships, real-world experience. It really comes in handy. To me, there's nothing that beats that, sitting down with somebody who's been through and walked that path of where you're trying to go, and has made those kind of mistakes. You are still going to make mistakes regardless. You talked about
without mistakes, without mistakes, there is no learning. But you know, okay, yes, and you know, okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to mention this is a full scenario. What Dr. Salau has mentioned is preparing the graduates for employment, getting them trained, giving them all the skills they need to go out there and get something going. But what about the industry? What about the employers? How do we get them ready to absorb these students? That is the discrepancy. That is why they don't have the jobs. You go, a lot of people on internship today go to the companies, they want to look for a job, and no vacancy. no vacancy, no vacancy. What are they going to do? Then they have to resort to the menial jobs. What I would suggest to Dr. Alausa and to the government is get the industry ready to absorb these graduates, incentivize them. For instance, you could create a tax credit for X number of graduates that are employed, and then it doesn't come out to the bottom line of the company. Then it's tax deductible. It could be special focus on ICT, on agriculture, on alternative energy employment, create opportunities for jobs to be there, give the companies special loans, for instance, so that they can have opportunities to absorb these graduates when they actually come out. So I think we should look at both sides when we are making planning for these youths. Well, get the industry ready to absorb them.
I know that Dr. Salah will have a response to that, but this message from Stephen Onua, I think it is to you, Engineer Olokere. He says, only about, and this he's writing on X, so only about 30% of students in Nigerian tertiary institutions really study to learn. Not that they are taught, but they study to learn, be knowledgeable, and work towards being employable. Many just pay their way through all courses and all years in school, essentially saying some just go to school to earn the certificate, not essentially because they need it.
That's why the point you mentioned earlier comes to the picture, that some graduates are actually not employable. They don't have the skills that the industries need. Yes, you're right. They just go there to learn. They just won't go there to pass through the universities. And when they are done, they come out in third class or in B. But most companies that are versatile, that are profitable, that are growth-oriented in Nigeria, have minimum requirements in most cases 2-1. If they don't meet that threshold, they don't employ you. It doesn't matter where you come through. So yes, you're right. But then on the other side is many of such graduates have learned to retrain themselves, to learn new skills, to align themselves with industry needs. Nobody teaches AI in school right now, but there are so many content creators out there that use AI consulting to solve industry problems. And that's one thing we need to encourage. And I'm sure you mentioned that point earlier on about critical thinking. Mindset. When you have a positive mindset, you have a can-do mindset, you have an achiever's mindset, obstacles ahead of you become easily surmountable. And that's one thing, again, we need to inculcate in our students. Not just the skills, not just the training, but to have a positive, can-do, go-getting mindset. It helps to clear many obstacles. So it's a whole lot we need to bring it together, but we need to prepare the students.
Okay, and you know, okay, just one thing before we come back to Dr. Salau. Is there a way to teach intrapreneurial skills for people working in any organization, even in school, to say, okay, this is the value I can add? Because a good number of times when we're talking about business, people thinking about business more from the bottom line, more from profits. But I think things have changed a lot from just profit and loss to value addition, which is one of the integral, philosophies in the head of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if my mind is right on that. Is there a way to teach or inculcate intrapreneurial mindset in our young?
Are you asking me or Dr. Salau?
No, it's for you, sir.
Oh, yes, actually so, which is why even now in universities in Nigeria and all over the world, they don't just teach things in line with your program. I did engineering when I was in college at IFE, and there's always electives, mandatory electives to take in sociology, in psychology, and in other social sciences. These fields are meant to challenge you to critical thinking. Philosophy makes you redefine who you are, makes you challenge your very existence sometimes, have critical analysis of circumstances. So we already have them. I don't know if they still have them now, but they need to develop those so that graduates look beyond what they study they look beyond the opportunities in front of them, and they can now challenge themselves, challenge the industry, challenge the world, because the world is just a stage, and they can conquer the world if they have that mindset to do so.
Right. And Dr. Salau, someone else is asking a question. Yes. That's Olanrewaju. He's saying he wants to know who is monitoring, what the universities, what the lecturers are teaching, the materials they're using to teach. For instance, he quotes an intern working with him in his company that believes that the lecturers are using outdated materials for an engineering course to teach.
Software engineering.
Software engineering to teach. Things have moved along. How do we check that? This is, we know that we say we shouldn't leave everything to government, but some of these universities are public universities. How do we check that?
That's NUT. That's NUT.
NUT or C?
NUC, sorry.
Right.
NUT is teachers. I'm mixing my
no, we understand.
abbreviations. Yes, there are so many of them. Yes, NUC. I believe that is all of us to call and make them accountable. You see, this work with the curriculum was not built in a day. And that's why I used the word ongoing when I had mentioned the reform that had happened recently this year around the curriculum. A lot of people have been clamoring for it for years. I am one of them because I'm a curriculum expert myself. And I noticed you pointed at yourself as a parent.
Yes. I'm one of them. I say that because, as I have young children,
yes.
Young, and I get tired. I can say I'm an old mom. Do you understand? I'm not a
because they're asking you questions.
Because I'm not a 20. No, it's not that I'm not a 25-year-old mom. Do you understand? I'm more advanced than that, and you have to revise for the exams with them. And I see my 10-year-old trying to read for 13, 14, 15 subjects. Why?
And all of that are things that we've revised. You notice that we've streamlined the number of subjects for basic, we've streamlined the number of subjects for senior secondary. That was huge. That was huge. Having the students have such an enormous workload, it was too much.
It's too much.
So you see that's a reform. So by people clamoring for it for years and pushing and driving and having the right people at the right place for it to happen, and that's why I like the name that we have, is the Renewed Hope Agenda, what we're trying to do. We've been clamoring for this, we've been pushing for this. We have the right people who are now saying, look, this is very important, this is very critical. The Honourable Minister made sure he conveyed all the right people at the table, the NERDC, everybody to sit down and say, what do we need to do to change this?
Can I again come in here?
Yes.
The major part of my schooling took place in England. My parents lived there at that time. My elder brother, once he was in his penultimate year in secondary school, they sat them down with a counselor and a career advisor. What do you want to do? I want to be an engineer. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be this. So I understand we used to have them, but I don't know, we don't have them. So they now go to their final year in secondary school with just those subjects they need to study to proceed to college or university so that they can. But we don't do that anymore. When we got back to Nigeria, my brother refused to attend some certain classes, and they had to call my father and tell him he's in science class, he has to do this. And he said he had already done his career counseling in the UK, and he knew that he didn't have to do these subjects. And they said, you're now in Nigeria. That's on one point. Almost 30 years later, I have someone I call my younger sister, when she was in her SS2. She read her older sister's JAMB syllabus, which told her that apart from the 4 subjects she needed to study for JAMB, for WAEC, she didn't need more than 5 subjects to pass, to go to whatever university she's going, not do 10 or 8 subjects in WAEC. So she went to her counselor in a private secondary school and said, I don't think I need Yoruba, I don't need French, I don't need this. These are the only subjects I need for what I want to study. And they told her, she had to say, I've read the syllabus, I know my rights. You can't tell me. And they knew. So they agreed with her, but they told her, please don't spread the news to your classmates because all of them will now say they're not doing. So they made her sit in those classes, but she didn't do the exams in school. So when it came to WAEC, she only studied for 5 subjects, she passed. And she was a top student, she was head girl, she was an A student, but she didn't want to burden herself with reading for 8 subjects when she can read for 5 only. So how do we get back to that?
And that's what we just did. That's why I love...
I mean at the senior level now.
I'm talking about the senior level too. And that's why I love what just happened recently with the curriculum reform, that it was really streamlined, where an art student does not have to burden themselves with all those extraneous subjects. They are just streamlined and focused on what is important. Plus, some of these key skills that we've all correctly identified, engineer even agreed with us that are important, like the entrepreneurial skills, being able to critically think. It's embedded in some of the other subjects that are there. And make sure that they are also digitally literate, because they have to compete in this global reality that we are in now. All of that was embedded in there. And to me, it makes them a much more holistic student.
Okay. Engineer Olokere, first of all, let me ask you straight up, how significantly do you think the reforms that Dr. Salau is talking about is going to make a difference? And from what you know, how soon do you see us getting the benefits? I know that the government official here is going to tell us tomorrow, but from your own perspective, how soon do you see this miracle happening?
Well, thank you for the question. I applaud Dr. Salau's work. I respect the fact that she's a curriculum expert. And I must also mention that the curriculum development or streamlining of the programs, of the courses the students do in school might not yield the desired results. For the reason that education, which is why it's called education, a total education doesn't just depend on learning the things directly in line of your employment goal, but also learning things that make you a completely educated person. You might feel psychology is irrelevant because you're an engineering student, at least the first year or so. But down the road, as you go to the employment market, you experience the psychology of interpersonal relations. You experience the need to get along with others. You have a little bit of knowledge of human resources. That's on one side. So I feel education should be complete, not segmented or selected. That's on one hand. On the other hand, I also believe that the educational development should not be just government alone. They need to bring in the private sector. Yes, the curriculum in our schools today are theoretical, mostly out of tune with the reality of the days. But then out of tune with what? With the industry. Why don't we invite many people in the technology sector, in the banking sector, in the oil and gas sector, to be part of the curriculum development in our institutions, so that by the time the students leave, they're actually learning things that are relevant to the industry. I think this will go a long way to make them more employable as they go out there into the employment markets.
Please allow me to interject into that, engineer. I'm also an engineer, by the way, sir. Engineer who is an educationist now. So you can see that when I'm saying this, I'm very passionate about this, sir. We did invite these experts. We have a roundtable working groups around EdTech who are all sitting down with us there at the ministry, at the federal ministry, working together on what is our roadmap for what we're utilizing in the classrooms, both in the public and private classrooms, sir. And then also, we're also talking, you have noticed that the Honourable Minister is not just talking about our students who are in the classrooms in this public and private. He's also talking about the students who are out of school. How do we address their needs? So we're looking at, there's a whole plethora of issues that we have to work on and address, sir. And yes, one of the key things you said that we are doing is that's why you're hearing me sitting down here as a person on corporate sector. We are sitting down having massive engagement with the private sector, sir. This work, as you correctly said, sir, cannot just be done by government alone. It has to be done by all hands being on deck together, sir. And we're all doing that. We're all working together. We're putting heads together. This policy that came around for the curriculum, sir, as I said, and another parent attested to this. I'm a parent myself. It's been years in the working, sir. And all the people came together and they clamored, and the Honourable Minister had a table of all these people sit down. What are the key things that we need to address? First of all, the workload. Everybody had there was a consensus across the board, the workload was too much, that was reduced. The number of subjects for the students in junior secondary basic and in senior secondary has reduced, sir. All the students, I'm yet to meet any student who has not met me, either when I go for programs to speak or even privately, that has not said, oh my God, this was one of the best things that happened recently. And I agree with them. All of this came about from people in private and public, all clamoring, coming to work together, sir. Sir, it is very important that we understand that education, as you said, and I agree, but I also disagree too, sir. There is a huge part of it that takes place outside the classroom, but there is a huge part of it that takes place inside the classroom, sir. The students spend at least 8 hours, 7 to 8 hours every day in the classroom with the teachers, and they are being facilitated on all these different knowledge, sir. So what takes place there is very important, and that's why this work that we're talking about around the curriculum, sir, is so critical, and it's really, really key. And when we're talking about, even he agrees that the most important people that are in this discourse for us to make sure that this is very robust are the teachers, sir. So there's so much work that is being done right now, sir, by this relationship through private and public. What can we do together? How do we get our students future ready for the workforce of tomorrow? That is the key message that all of us should be driving and working and striving towards right now, sir.
Right, and if I may just add to that, I'm also of the opinion that, there are, core subjects that we always talk about, English, maths, whatever, biology, add maths
Science.
if you want, in sciences and arts. But there are some subjects, especially at the primary level, that you teach on just a need-to-know basis, like history, for example. You teach it because they need to know the history of their country.
And it's there.
But you don't necessarily have to test it. Do you understand? That's what I'm saying. Because it's so voluminous that, they have to read a lot. You teach on the need to know, but it's not all subjects that need to be tested.
Okay.
And then I raise the issue with the school management. They say, oh, it's the parents that are clamoring for this and clamoring for that, but
It's another topic for another day.
Which is another topic for another day. Thank you very much. You got my cue.
Yes.
Because
We'll
now
go there, we'll go to another box.
Yes.
Huge box.
Thank you so much for your
Rabbit
time this
hole.
morning. Dr. Tola Salau is Special Advisor to the Minister of Education on STEM and other issues. We thank you for your time today, as well as Engineer Titus Olowokere, who is President of US-Nigeria Business Council, joins us from Atlanta, Georgia. We sincerely appreciate your time and the sacrifice you took to join us this morning, Engineer Olowokere. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now, earlier, Joke was very, very excited about the World Cleanup Day.
I was?
Maybe because she's a woman, I don't know, but you'll find out why when we return from this break. To stay with us.